And I want to go right to Marq Claxton of the Black Law Enforcement Alliance for more on the Chauvin verdict and what it can mean in a larger impact. Marq, thanks for being here. Among some other points yesterday, the prosecutor argued that this is not an anti-police prosecution, but rather, he says, a pro-police prosecution, because he says there's nothing worse for good police than bad police. They also tried to make it clear the police aren't on trial. Derek Chauvin is on trial here. What do you think about that general point, and why was it so important to make?
It's vitally important because oftentimes people have a great difficulty in rendering decisions against police officers because they treat it as if it's an indictment, if you will, against the profession of policing. So I think the prosecutors were mindful of that concern that some jurors may have and wanted to make sure that they isolated Derek Chauvin and indicated that, you know, you have to charge him according to his individual actions in this case, as they have charged him, and you have to judge him accordingly. So it was wise to make sure to reassure the jurors not to conflate policing with the conduct of Derek Chauvin and to treat him individually, isolate him, if you will, and therefore you could then consider some of his actions to be abhorrent or even criminal.
And now, on the other hand, the defense argued that Derek Chauvin was following training and acting as a reasonable police officer would on May 25th. What did you make of those arguments?
Well, the defense is engaged largely in this kind of hypothetical positioning and presentation. So I don't think the evidence submitted in court, that means the evidence of the expert witnesses, supports their position that Derek Chauvin in any way acted proper as far as police tactics are concerned, not according to professional standards, not according to the Chief Arredondo, not even according to their departmental standards. And if you listen to the expert testimony, there was not a single shred of validation for what he engaged in. There was significant conversation about the disproportionate amount of force that was used by Derek Chauvin. I just think the defense is throwing anything they can against the wall and hoping something sticks or causes some confusion.
Now, what do you think this verdict could mean for the larger issue in terms of police and police reform?
I don't think the verdict itself will have significant impact in adjusting downward the calls for reform or reimagination of police. I think that regardless of the verdict, there will be continued calls for us to restructure policing, to refocus policing, to reprioritize policing, reallocate funds, and reimagine policing into the 21st century. I think everyone's kind of at the point where they understand that a requirement of professional standing is that there's a constant upgrade, not only in training, but a lot of the procedural aspects of it. So I think the verdict, regardless of the verdict, there will continue to be a significant and substantive push towards reform. And you can see many jurisdictions are already engaging in certain components of larger reform packages.
And we know tensions are high in Minneapolis and also around the country as we await a verdict here. What's your message to law enforcement tasked with keeping the peace in all of this?
Do your job. Adhere to the professional standards. Remember, don't personalize it. To remain disciplined and structured, and be a professional. And that really is the message that the community has been sending and yelling and screaming and demanding of law enforcement for many decades now. So it's up to the law enforcement community to either adhere to those professional standards, and unfortunately many of them are just implied because there are no clear national standards. But I think everyone's clear about the responsibility or expectations of law enforcement and policing, and that includes during the course of demonstrations, regardless of how vocal or vociferous or potentially apparently dangerous they are, just maintain professional standards and do that which protects and preserves and prioritizes human life.
All right, Marq Claxton of the Black Law Enforcement Alliance. We appreciate your time as always, Marq. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. I appreciate you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.